So guys, today is the first demo session of our ASP.NET Core using microservices session. So basically in today's session, what we are going to discuss, I will briefly introduce what is microservices, why you should learn microservices, why companies are migrating from monolithic architecture to microservices architecture, how the applications developed using monolithic architecture, and how the application developed using microservices architecture. Then I will give you a quick overview of our course syllabus, and then I will take the questions and answers as it is, right? So whatever questions on your mind, you can also ask. So this is more related about the introduction session. Mostly, right at the end of today's session, you will having a very good idea why you should join microservices session or why you should learn microservices and why you should use or why you should develop application using microservices architecture. And right, and before that, let me give you a brief idea or information about this batch. So the session is going to be for a duration of 3 months. Sessions are from Monday to Friday. Duration is 6:30 to 8. I'm saying 6:30 to 8, but it can be right something related to 6:30 to 8:30, right? The course fee is 10,000 INR for Indian guys. Whoever from outside India, it is 125 USD, right? And the Zoom link, whatever I have provided, this Zoom link is only for the demo sessions, right? Once the demo sessions are completed, I will share a different credential which you can use to attend the main sessions. Second thing, the demo sessions, whatever I'm going to take, I will upload on my YouTube channel as well as on my Telegram group. So in case if you miss, you can watch the sessions. One point, right, at the end of every day, I'm going to provide the recorded sessions plus the documentation. So whatever the documentations I'm going to use in the live session, document and that session recording you will get at the end of the session, so that in case if you miss the session, then you will have a chance to review whatever we have discussed going through the recorded sessions, right? So let us proceed and understand what we are going to discuss in today's session. So today is basically introduction part. So what we are going to discuss in today's session, first of all we will discuss what are applications. Why we are going to discuss applications? Because we are going to develop application, whether you are using monolithic architecture, whether you are using right, what I can say, microservices architecture. At the end we are going to develop applications. So first of all we need to understand what are application, what are the different types of application, like mobile application, desktop application, web application, how the applications is structured in the means, right? Generally a application is split into three layers. What are the layer, how this layer interconnected, that is what we will discuss. Then we'll discuss earlier stages, right? How the monolithic architecture is designed, what is its benefit, what is its challenges. By taking some real time examples, I will show you what is monolithic architecture. Then I will show you what is microservices architecture, how it is designed, what is its advantages and challenges, again by taking some real-time examples. And finally, I will give you some overview why big companies like Netflix, Amazon, Weber, Microsoft, right? They are transitioned from monolithic architecture to microservices architecture. And then that is what we are going to discuss in today's session. And then I will take the syllabus overview, right? I'll give you a brief overview about what is our curriculum and how the right course is going to be proceed throughout the 3 months duration. So let us start. So if someone asks you what is a application, what will be your answer? Can anybody tell me what do you mean by a application? An application. Technically, right? What do you mean by an application? So you guys are developing applications for a long time, and I hope most of the members are working professional. Then whatever the software you develop, that is nothing but an application. What is an application? An application is a set of interconnected components. An application is a set of interconnected components that helps the user to perform a specific task. For example, whenever you are developing any application, whenever I'm saying interconnected set of components means what? Now it is going to have some code base. You are writing some code using any framework or any technology, whether it is .NET, Java, PHP, whatever it may be. It is also going to have some database, whether it is a MySQL, SQL Server, Oracle, MongoDB, NoSQL, whatever it may be. You are going to also consume some external services. So these are nothing but one component, and the application is a combination of this component, and that application is going to perform a specific task, and that is going to be used by the end user. For example, if you take the help of online shopping sites like Amazon, right, like Flipkart. So there, that is nothing but an application, and that application is also combination of software component. There is a already present. What I can say, application is there, code is written, database is there, services is there. If you take the example of a streaming website like Amazon Prime, like Hotstar, like YouTube, they are also going to perform a specific task, and they are also going to be a set of interconnected software components. If you take the example of any banking site like SBI Bank, HDFC Bank, ICICI Bank, also it is an application which main purpose is to help the users. Similarly, you can take the example of a food delivery application, Swiggy, Zomato. That is also going to be one application which is going to deliver the food on your doorstep. So this is so basically application is a set of interconnected software components that helps the user to perform a specific task. That is nothing but applications. Clear or not? Is that clear? If someone asks you what is an
Yes.
application, can you clear and elaborate them by giving some examples?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Now, so as we discussed, right, these are nothing but one application. Now, so when we design the application, I mean, whenever we are going to develop the application, first of all, we need to design the architecture of that application. Yes or no? You cannot blindly develop the application. See, if you want to build a house, first of all, you need to build the architecture of that house. Without the architecture, if you build the house, then it might not be a successful one. Similarly, in our real-time cases, right, in industry, whenever we are going to develop the application, first of all, we need to define the architecture of the application. And basically, right, commonly, right, whether you are developing any kind of application, majorly it is comes with three important layers. Can anybody tell me what are the three important layers? Anyone? Can anyone tell me what are the three different layers of an application?
Business layer, database layer, and UI
Database
layer.
and you
Okay.
Major.
earlier.
So basically presentation layer, or you can say UI layer, business logic layer, data access layer. So an application architecture means what? An application architecture refers to the high level structural design of the application. So how that application designed from a higher level point of view. See, whenever I'm saying presentation layer, we are considering this is the user interface layer. That is the high level. But internally, how that presentation layer is developed. Is there any controller action method? Is there any views, any API endpoint? Why? So that is the that is the low level design. But from the higher level design, that is the presentation layer. So what is the main objective of the presentation layer? Now it is the layer using which the end user can interact. So basically, if you open the banking site, so whenever you open the banking site on your browser, so that is nothing but the presentation layer. Whenever you open the Facebook, so whatever you see on the screen, that is nothing but the presentation layer. So presentation layer means the layer which is specifically designed for the end user, using which the end user can interact with the application. So presentation layer will deal with the business logic layer. So whatever the business data, right, or whatever the business data validation, business logic, business rules, restriction, all these things are going to be designed in this layer. For example, if you want to place one order, so first of all, this business logic layer going to verify whether the customer ID, whatever the you pass, whether that customer is a valid and active customer or not. Whatever the product ID you provided for placing that order, whether those product ID are available in the database or not. Whatever quantity you selected, whether that quantity is available or or you can say stock is there or not in the database. Then it is going to check, right, what is the product amount, is there any discount needs to be applied, any shipping charges need to be applied. So this is nothing but your business logic, and that logic is going to be placed within your business logic layer. And business logic layer will interact with the data access layer. Guys, remember, in business logic layer, we are not going to perform any database operations. For example, if you want to fetch the customer details, business logic layer will deal with the data access layer. If you want to fetch the product details, business logic layer will deal with the data access layer. If you want to create one order, then in that case, or if you want to create one order or order items, I mean making entry into the database, then in that case also business logic layer is going to deal with the data access layer. So there is no business logic in the presentation layer, no business logic in the data access layer. Any business logic, whether it is validation, business rules, processing, whatever it may be, everything needs to be put inside the business logic layer. Then what is the job of a data access layer? So data access layer job only to communicate with the database, either fetch the data or update the data, insert the data, or delete the data. So basically, the data access layer is going to perform the database CRUD operations, right? So presentation layer will handle the incoming input, whatever the data provided by the user. Then that data it will pass to the business logic layer. Business logic layer going to process the data. After processing the data, it will also, if you require, then it is going to either store the data, update the data, modify, or whatever. So that purpose, it is going to deal with the data access layer. So these are the three major components, right, of any application you develop nowadays. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And yes, if you see some of the developers, right, what they are doing within the controller action method, they are writing everything, right? They are writing the business logic, they are writing the data access logic, everything they are putting inside the controller action method, which is not a good design. So you should split your application into minimum three major components. One is the presentation layer. You can consider this is the user interface layer, business logic layer, and data access layer. What is the role of each layer? Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes.
Right. And for designing this kind of layer, right, in your application, we are provided with two different architectural styles. So what is that architectural style? One is monolithic architecture and another one is microservices architecture. So that is what we are going to discuss in detail. And before that, what I need to do or what I need to understand is what are the different types of applications, right? We have discussed that these are the different layers. But these layers can be placed in any kind of applications, right? It doesn't mean that your application needs to be a web application only. It can be a desktop application, it can be a mobile application. So basically, there are three types of application. Mostly you work, one is web application, right, which is very familiar. One other one is mobile application. Again, it is very familiar. Another one is a desktop application. It is also very familiar. So what is the difference between these three? If you want to access the application or accessing the application, if you need a web browser, for accessing the application, if you need a web browser, then that is nothing but a web application. For example, online shopping site, banking site, social media, these are the examples of web applications. Mobile application, so specifically designed for mobile and smartphone. The application which you need to install on your mobile phone from App Store or Play Store, that application is said to be a mobile application like WhatsApp, like mobile, right, Rapido, Uber, right, mobile banking app. So these are the different examples of a mobile application. So desktop application means the application which needs to be installed. The application which needs to be installed on your desktop or a laptop. And application is said to be a desktop application. For example, PLC media player, Microsoft Word, right? Whatever application you installed on your right system, then that application is said to be a desktop application. So whether it is a mobile application, web application, desktop application, the application architecture can be broadly divided into three layers. So what is that layer? Presentation layer, business logic layer, data access layer. And designing, right, for designing these three different types of application into these different layers, we are acquainted or we are mostly using two different architectural patterns in industry. One is monolithic architecture, another one is microservices architecture. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Now let us try to understand what is monolithic architecture and what is microservices architecture, what is the challenges and advantages with the monolithic architecture, and how we can overcome those challenges with microservices architecture. So monolithic architecture means it is the traditional approach. Sir, what do you mean by traditional approach? Traditional approach means for a very long period of time, the applications are developed using this architecture. And still today, application also using monolithic architecture. So in this architecture, what happening? Now the entire application code, the entire application, including the UI part, including the business logic part, including the database part, right, the data access layer, everything is packaged and deployed as a single unit. So basically, there is a single source code for the complete, for the entire application, all the layers, right, whether it is a presentation layer, business logic layer, or data access layer, everything is going to be packaged as a single unit. And that single unit is going to be deployed in a single server. Definitely, as it is a single unit, single source code. So you have to deploy the complete, the entire application into a single server. And as all these applications are within a single application, all the different layers are within a single application, so all the layers or components are tightly coupled, which can significantly which can simplify, right? Initially, what happening, right? As you are putting everything, presentation layer, business logic layer, data access layer, everything in a single application. So your initial development is going to be fine. So initially you will feel it better. Yes, that is fine. My application layer is here. My presentation layer is here. My data access layer is here. I can develop the application easily. But later you will face challenges, right? When it comes to scaling and when it comes to maintenance. So how that scaling and maintenance will come into the picture, I will show you practically, right? So let us try to understand the monolithic architecture with one diagram, right? For example, let assume this is one, right? Let's take the example of one e-commerce application. So in e-commerce application, your application is going to be deal with multiple modules. What are the model? You might be have a user module for handling the user authentication, authorization, login, logout, forgot password, change password, two-factor authentication, single sign-on, whatever it may be, right? That is the user module. Another module, let assume the product model where you are storing the product and a category, right? Whether the product performing the database cloud operation over the product entity. Another model is there, that is the order model, which is going to deal with the order life cycle, starting from creating the order, updating the status, canceling the order, and all these things are going to be there. Another model is going to be the payment model, which is going to take the payment, initiate the refund, all these things. Inventory model is there, notification model is there. So basically, there are multiple models in your application. And in the case of a UI, right, if you see this monolithic architecture, this UI or presentation layer, this business logic layer, this data access layer, all these things are going to be used within a single project. All these applications are going to be developed within a single project. In that case, the UI layer is going to deal with the business logic layer, and the business logic layer are going to handle all the business logic of all the domain, or you can say all the models, whether it is product, payment, user, inventory, notification, whatever it may be. All these models are going to be inside the same business logic layer, and the UI is going to deal with this layer. And then this layer is going to use the data access layer, and the data access layer is going to use the single database. So in this case, the database is shared for all the different models. So for let's assume there are 4 models. For all these 4 models, there is a single database. Clear? So this is how the monolithic architecture is designed. And I hope now you already you can imagine this application architecture with the application what you developed in your in your industry, right? For example, if you are using ASP.NET Core Web API, and this is the architecture which you might be following in your project. Am I right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes.
Right? In this case, what is
Yes.
happening in the completely application, the controller action methods you can consider, the business logic layer, the data access layer, all these things are going to be packaged as a single unit, and that unit is going to be deployed into the server. Clear, guys?
Yes. Yes.
Right now. So
Yes.
with this monolithic architecture, now we need to understand what are the challenges. So tight coupling. Tight coupling means what? All models depend on each other. So why all the models depend on each other? Because presentation layer directly communicating with the data business logic layer directly communicating with the data access layer. So means what? Now all the different layers or all the different models are interconnected with each other. So if you want to change one part, then you can also have some kind of a side effect, right, elsewhere, right? For example, if you are doing some changes in the product layer, it might be impact the order layer. Why order layer is communicating with the product layer to get the product information while placing the order. So basically, tight coupling is there in case of a monolithic architecture, and most possible as please make the software component as loose coupling as possible. Tight coupling means dependency is there. Dependency means what? Now, if I change one model, then it can affect other model. For example, as we are putting everything within the single source code, right? And if you enhance or if you do some modification in the product model, then entire application you need to test. Regression testing is going to be there. Why? Because everything in the same project. If I do some changes in the product model, then it might be impact the other modules as well, because other module is going to deal with the product model. So whatever changes I'm doing, is it affecting the other module? So that is what you need to take into consideration because of this tight coupling. Scaling limitation. For example, let assume you develop the application and you host the application into a single server. In this case, definitely, as your application is built using a single server, I mean single source code, so single server is going to be there, which is going to host the complete application. Now, in the seasonary shell is there, right? And at that time, for your e-commerce application, for a specific 1 week or so, right, there is a high shell. High shell means you need to handle more order or more payment information. So in that case, what will happen? You cannot only scale the product, right? You cannot only scale the order model. You cannot only scale the, right, what I can say, product module or other module. Why? See, scaling means what? Now, if, right, for example, today, right, per day, you are getting 50,000 traffic, right? 50,000 requests are coming to your application. And for some other day, for some seasonal shell, right? Some holidays, then some festival is there. Instead of 50,000, you are getting 5 lakh requests. Then your server cannot handle this thing. So for that purpose, what you need to do, you need to increase your server resources. Increase the server resources in the sense you need to increase the core, you need to increase the SSD, you need to increase the RAM. So that is what you need to do. As in this case, all the complete application is deployed into a single server. So you cannot scale a specific portion. For example, I only want to increase the payment module. I want to scale only the payment module. That is not possible. I want to increase only the user model. There is a high traffic coming for user registration. I cannot increase. For example, you send one campaign is going on, and you expect for the next 7 days, there are, right, 100 times, right, for example, instead of 5,000, there are some 50,000 user registration is going to be there. So you cannot increase that user registration model only. User model alone, you cannot scale. So that scaling limitations is there. Why? Because every model is within the single server. So in that case, you have to scale the completely model server only. I mean, all the models only. So specific model you cannot scale in and scale out in case of a monolithic architecture. Clear or not?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Clear? So third thing is deployment risk. Deployment risk means what? Now in this case, as you can see, everything is within the single source code. So if you fix some changes, if you fix some bug, or if you create, right, some new feature. For example, there is a bug in the payment model and you fix that payment model. Then what is happening? Now then you have to completely redeploy the entire source code. Why? Because everything within the same project. It is not like that a payment model means payment related changes I only need to redeploy. Because as everything within the same project, so the complete redeployment is going to be happening. And the complete redeployment means what? And there is a risk and there is a downtime. Clear? Yes or no?
Yes.
Right. So difficult to maintain, definitely. See, initially when you start developing, you feel it good that everything within the same single project and I can happily develop the application. As the application grows, as the code base becomes, right, very large and complex, and the testing and releasing new features can become challenging. Why? Because for a small change you need to test everything. For a new feature, you need to test everything. That is very, very difficult to manage. And the limited technology choices, what exactly it means in this case, or you cannot use some different technology and database. For example, my requirement is that for product model I want to use a NoSQL database. For payment model I want to use MySQL, and for a user model I want to Java with Oracle. So flexibility you will not get with the monolithic architecture. Why? Because this is a single framework, single database. So you cannot use multiple database, and you cannot use multiple framework and technology, because everything is going to be reside in a single framework and a single language. So basically there is no option for using a different technology, different language and a different database in case of a monolithic architecture. So that limited technology choices are there. For example, so three members are there. One member is good with Java, another one is good with the .NET. The .NET people, they will happy to develop the application using ASP.NET Core Web API. But what about the Java people? So can that Java people going to work with your project? No, because he doesn't have any experience into Java. But in that case, if we allow that one model can be developed with .NET, another model can be developed with Java, then in that case, so you as a .NET developer, you can happily work with .NET. Your other team member who is a Java developer, he can happily develop the other services using Java. That benefit we will get with the microservices architecture. So what are the challenges with the monolithic architecture? Is that clear, guys?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Right. Now what we need to do, we need to understand the microservices architecture. So microservices architecture, this is the modern and the industry proven, industry proven and tested architecture. So this architecture breaks the application into multiple smaller independently deployable services. Multiple smaller independently deployable services. Each service is responsible for a piece of functionality. Let us understand the same example, whatever we discussed. Let us try to understand the same example using microservices architecture. Let's assume this is the UI layer. So UI layer means you cannot do anything with the UI layer. That is the user interface layer. This UI layer can be a web application. This UI layer can be a mobile application. This UI layer can be a desktop application. This UI layer can be a IoT, right? And then what we need to do in case of a microservices architecture, now each module is going to be a separate service. Each module is going to be a separate service. Coming to our previous architecture, you can see all the modules are going to be reside within the same project, I mean same service, shared database. So product model going to use the same database, order model going to use the same database, payment model same database, inventory model same database, and they are communicating with each other within the same project. And this is a single application. Now let us try to understand how we can overcome this tight coupling and or you can say this complexity challenges of monolithic architecture with the microservices. Please observe, this is very, very important. Now, so here you can see this is my product service. This is a independent project. Order service, this is a independent project. This is payment service, independent project. This is inventory service, independent project. Now, the product service related business logic and data access logic will be inside this product service project. Similarly, for order service, the related business logic and data access logic here, payment related business logic, data access logic within the payment service, and same in the case of a inventory service. And here you can see each service, here you can see each service is going to have, its one database. Each service is going to have its own database. So here you can see product service having the product database, order service having the order database, payment service having the payment database, inventory service is going to have the inventory database. So now this product service, order service, payment service, they are exposing some API, or you can say the endpoint. And these endpoints are nothing but you can consider them as RESTful API. And this RESTful API is going to be used by the UI layer. So this UI layer, who is this UI layer? It is the mobile application, it is the web application. That web application developed using any technology, React, MVC, .NET, Java, Angular, whatever it may be, they are going to consume the services. And for what type of a service they are going to consume, that related service is going to expose the endpoint. For example, product service going to expose an endpoint which is going to be used by the ULR. For example, return list of a product, return product by filter, right? So those kind of endpoint are going to be exposed by the product service. Similarly, order service, how to create the order, how to update the order status, how to cancel the order. So that is what going to be exposed by the order service. So how to initiate the payment, how to confirm the payment, how to initiate the refund. So that is going to be exposed by the product service, and similarly inventory service, right? So in that case, what is happening now, whenever the product service working, it is going to use the product database. And this database, right, product service cannot communicate with the order database. Product service cannot communicate with the payment database. Product service cannot communicate with the inventory database. So each service can only deal with this database. Now you might have one question. So that is fine. But when the order is initiated, when the customer placing an order, so in that case, the customer or the ULR can call the order service HTTP endpoint and they place the order. But internally, for placing the order service needs the product information. The order service needs to initiate the payment, right, information. I mean, needs to initiate the payment. So in that case, the order service needs to deal with the order database, sorry, product database. The order service needs to deal with the payment database. How that is possible? So in that case, there is something called inter-service communication. For outside world, we are providing this RESTful API. This RESTful API is going to be consumed by the outside world. Outside world means mobile, desktop, web application, IoT, whatever it may be. But for internal communication, this service, right, they are going to consume or they are providing some mechanism. So, for example, this product service going to expose the endpoint in two different ways. What are the two different ways? One is synchronous, another one is asynchronous. So what is when to use synchronous way of communication, when to use asynchronous way of communication? Let me give the example. For example, in the order service, I need to validate the product information as well as I need to validate the customer information. So for that purpose, this order service needs to communicate with the product service as well as with the user service. The user service diagram is not here. Let's assume this inventory service is nothing but your user service. So the product service needs to get the data from the order service needs to get the product information from the product service and needs to get the user information from this user service. Let's assume this inventory service is going to be the user service. Then in that case, the communication should be synchronous or asynchronous. In that case, the communication between order to product and order to user going to be synchronous. Why? Because I need to fetch the data. Until and unless I'm not getting the data from the related service, I cannot proceed further. So in this case, the communication is going to be synchronous. And another example I'm going to give you. Suppose the order is confirmed. Once the order is confirmed, then what I need to do? I need to send the order confirmation email to the customer. So in that case, that order confirmation email that needs to be asynchronous. Why asynchronous? Because once I initiate that order, right, order confirmation, I don't want the clients to wait till the email is delivered to his email ID. So that functionality we can process in the background, or you can say behind the scene. So the things which are related, or the things which are going to work behind the scene, for which we don't want the user to wait, that communication we can make asynchronous. The things for which we need to wait without the data, I cannot proceed. That what we need to make as a synchronous. What is synchronous communication? What is asynchronous communication? How to implement everything we are going to discuss practically, and I'm going to show you many examples. So in the internal communication between the server, right, between the microservices can be developed in two ways. One is a synchronous way, another one is asynchronous. For synchronous way, they have to use the HTTP API, similar to RESTful services. For asynchronous, they are going to use something called RabbitMQ, Kafka. Some internal communication mechanism is there. That is what we are also going to discuss. So for now, just remember the inter-service communication or the communication between the services can be done in two ways. One is synchronous, another one is asynchronous. Synchronous we need to use in that uh, cases when we need the data and when we need to wait till the data coming from the corresponding service. And asynchronous means when we don't want to wait till the operation is completed. For example, sending the email. For that purpose, why we should wait till that sending a confirmation email is completed. So that what we can perform in the backend, or I can say background, and that what we need to make as asynchronous. Or for that purpose, we are going to use something called the event-based communication. So what is event-based communication? All these things we are going to discuss in detail. So this is how the microservices architecture is working. Clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Right. So what is the advantages, right? So with microservices architecture, independent deployment. Independent deployment was that each service can be updated, tested, and deployed without affecting the rest of the application. For example, you make some changes in the payment service. So if you do some changes in the payment service, then what I need to do? I only need to deploy this payment service, or I also need to deploy this product order and inventory service. Guys, tell me. So here, this product service, it is an independent service, a separated ASP.NET Core Web API project. Order is a separate ASP.NET Core Web API. Each service is a separate project. So in that case, if I'm doing some changes in my payment service, then I only need to deploy this payment service. Similarly, if I'm doing some changes in the product service, I only need to deploy this product service.
Yes.
That is that is the meaning of an independent deployment. That is not possible in case of a monolithic architecture. Why? Because everything within a single code base, whether the changes related to product order, payment, user, right, notification, whatever it may be, complete redeployment is there. But in this case, payment service means payment only going to be redeployment. If the payment service fail, that is going to fail the payment service, not the product order and inventory service. That is independent deployment. Scalability. Now let assume I want to rate increase, right? Let assume some new vendors are going to be unloaded for our application. Let assume some 100 new vendors are going to be unloaded for our application, and they are going to upload thousands of or millions of record for the next 7 days. So to handle that scenario, right, what I need to do, I can scale the product service for the next 7 days. Scale the product service means I can increase the server resources for the product service. Wherever the product service is hosted, so that service I can only increase the server resources. I can increase so that right it will behave as expected. After 7 days, once the products are uploaded, again you can scale out. So whatever the increase you have done, what you can also decrease. For example, there is a high chance that online payment is going to be there. Many online payment is going to be there. So you can increase the payment service according. So based on your requirement, you can independently scale the independent service without affecting the other services. For example, inventory service, which doesn't require scaling. So why should I scale that service? Not required. So that independent scalability is also possible. Faster development, yes. Faster development means what? See, in this case, multiple team can work on a different services, right? For example, right, one team is working on the product service. They don't want to think about the other services. As long as whatever the contract they provided to be consumed by the outside world and by the other services, as long as the contract is not changed, nothing is going to be right. They should not worry or think about other. For example, you are providing one endpoint which is going to retrieve the product information by product ID. So if that signature is not impacted, whatever the logic you are written, that logic, if you are modifying, no issue. If you are modifying the signature, then whatever the input data I'm taking, whatever the output data I'm returning, if that is impacted, that is modified, then in that case you need to inform the outside world other as well as the other services. As long as your contract is same, I mean the method signature is same, the rest whatever the rest API you expose, that API signature is same, that is not going to be impacted by other services. So you can go ahead and you can happily right, tested. You can happily modify the logic. You can happily, right, introduce some new feature. And in that case, it is not going to be impacted by other services. That is the another benefit. Fault isolation means what now? Let assume my payment service failed. Let assume the payment service is failed. If the payment service is failed, is it going to impact my application? Yes or no?
No.
No. No.
No. Why no?
It's impact.
If
It's
it,
independent.
Independent.
if it's impact, why, how it is going to impact? If it is not impact, why it is not going to impact? That is what I want to know.
Yes,
Maybe it
they
is
are loosely coupled.
partially impacted. Partially
That-
impacted.
So what do
It
you
is
mean by partial?
partially impacted. Yeah.
The services are loosely coupled, so they
Yes,
will not impact each other.
exactly. So there
Yeah.
is no impact, right? For example, if payment service is down, is the user going to log in? Is there any issue with the user login functionality?
No.
No.
No. Is the payment module is down? Can I search and browse the product information?
Yes.
If the payment service is down, can I place one order?
Yes.
No.
Why no?
No.
I know.
Because
What
the
is the issue of placing the order? Is order is going to deal with the payment database?
Yeah, yes, you can please.
Yeah, of
So you
course.
can place the order. There is no issue on placing the order. Yes, when the payment rate is going to be done, at that time the payment is going to be failed, and that the payment is going to be failed, that payment entry is going to be marked as pending. So basically, your order is going to be placed, but with the status as pending. And once the payment service is off, so some backend logic or background services unit, right, which is going to make the payment confirmation success. Clear?
Yes.
yeah.
Right? So basically, that is the meaning, that is the benefit what we will get with microservices. So no one is going to impact anyone, right? For example, but yes, if the user service is down, we can't do anything else because that is the major service. If a user cannot log in, then how they can do other things? That is not possible. But some other things, right? If there is no dependency, then right, yes, that is possible. So you can do this thing, right? For example, your user service is down. So user service is down means user cannot log in. But whatever the backend services you have written for confirming the payment, is that impacted?
No, no.
Yes or
No.
no?
No.
So that backend service is execute, you will go to the right payment gateway service, you will get the updated payment information. Accordingly, he is going to update the database. After update database, whatever the logic you have written, right, that sending the confirmation, payment confirmation email, that is what also going to be right execute behind the scene. So basically, there's no dependency on each other. Yes, your functional flow might be impacted somehow, but not completely. Clear?
Yes.
So this is the benefit of using microservices architecture. And right, another important point, right? What is the challenges we have discussed earlier? That is limited technology choices. So in this case, for product service one, you can go with Java, Oracle. For order service, you can go with .NET with a SQL Server. For payment service, you can go with .NET MySQL. For this one, you can go with some different technology stack. There is no issue because each service is going to be independent. Right? So whatever, as per your experience, as per your project requirement, whatever the technology stack is best suited for that particular functionality, you can choose. Clear?
Yes.
Yes.
Right? So that is the benefit of
Yes.
using, right, what I can say, microservices architecture. Now, so now, right, what are the some real world examples, right? If you take, so Netflix, Amazon, Uber, right, they have used this microservices very frequently, right? So initially, right, they started with the monolithic architecture. With monolithic architecture, everything they put within the single project, and then they face the issue, right? If something is went wrong, then that complete application is down. And to overcome that issues, right, they have migrated from monolithic architecture to microservices architecture. They have developed right, hundred of independent services, and each services they deployed on cloud or some in process, right, in-house server. and their application is working as expected. And whatever the benefits we discussed, because of that benefits, right, nowadays, right, most of the applications, right, complex application like Netflix, Amazon, Uber, so they have migrated from monolithic architecture to microservices architecture. Clear, guys? So what is the right, why people are migrating now? Because in monolithic architecture there is a scaling limitation, so you cannot scale a specific model. Deployment challenges, any small changes, complete redeployment, slower development, right? Everything is in a single project, right? If some team doesn't have any experience on some stuff, right, they cannot work, and that will slow down your development. And these limitations you can handle with microservices along with that fault isolation. Clear?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So this is the reason why people are choosing monolithic, right? I mean, people are migrating from monolithic architecture to microservices architecture. Then the question is, does monolithic architecture exist? Yes, monolithic architecture is exist. When to use monolithic architecture? Now, if the team member doesn't have any experience in microservices, if your application complexity is very less, there is very small application you are going to develop, then in that case you can go with still monolithic architecture. But if your application architecture going to be very complex, if your application is going to handle thousands of users per second, then definitely the best approach is to use microservices architecture, right? So that is how you need to decide. So with this, right, I have given one introduction into microservices, why you should learn, and when to use microservices. If anyone having any question related to this, right, introduction to microservices, they can ask me now. Anyone
Sir,
having any question, guys? Yes.
sir, you said we can deploy independent deployment can possible for each service, right, sir? But sir, you said internal communication between two services can be synchronous or asynchronous. If it is synchronous, then definitely it will be dependency on each other. Then in
See,
that case, how it's possible?
see, that is what I have explained now. So in that case, right, for example, right, in this case, you place the order, right? And while you are initiating the payment, payment is failed. Payment is failed in the sense, what response you will get, you will see failed means, right, if the transaction is failed, that is failed. If you are not getting any response, then what is the status you assume? You assume it is going to be in pending state. Am I right?
Yes, sir.
So pending state means in that case, that order is going to be failed or pending.
Pending.
So in
Order
that
is
case,
placed. Order is placed, but payment is pending.
yeah, see, order, no, order is all. See, until and unless your payment is not confirmed, so you can mark the order as completed. Your order is
Yes, sir.
also going to be pending state.
Pending.
So
Yes.
here, the order service communicate with the payment service. If the payment service is down, we are not getting any response. So in that case, it might be possible that it is making an entry into the payment database with the initial status pending, and then it is not getting any response from the PG, or something happening, right? That is the reason why that payment status is not updated. So in that case, the order service either gets some response, either failed. If you get failed, the order is failed. If you get completed, payment is completed, so you can mark the order as confirmed. If you are not getting any response, right, then in that case, what you need to do, you still need to mark the order status as pending.
Okay.
Right? So basically what exactly it means, right? See, whenever we are consuming some services, we are expecting some response. If you are getting the
Yes.
response, that is fine. If you are not getting the response, then in that case we assume, okay, let it be in the rate pending state. Same in the case of a payment gateway, right? For example, you are consuming the payment PG service. If you are not getting any response from the PG, do you mark the transaction as failed, or you are still marking the transaction as pending?
It's failed, sir.
How failed? If you're not getting any response from the PG, you have to mark the status as pending now, because you are not getting the response, but internally if that transaction is completed, you have
Yes,
to,
yes.
if you are
Pending,
not
sir.
getting any response, you can, if you are not getting any response, you cannot say it is completed or it is failed or whatever it is. You have to mark it as
It's
a
still pending.
pending. And then you have to write some kind of a backend logic, which is going to check what is the current status by getting the data from the PG. Same logic is applicable here. Clear?
Okay. Okay, sir.
Sir,
Anyone
I have
else have any question, guys?
yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes, please.
Sir, on the place of inventory service, you told assume as a user service. Okay.
Yes.
I just
Yes.
want to check just general question means I just want to check this user how many orders is available. Okay.
Yes.
So I
Yes.
need to route from user service to order service, or I can use directly order service and I can check means this user have how many orders and all the things.
Okay.
Means here
Okay. So in that,
database.
okay, let me give you. So if you want to check for a particular user how many orders, right? You have two options. One option, you have to you can place one order service endpoint here, which will take the user ID, and in the order database, definitely we are going to create one column with the user ID, and based on the user ID, you can return the data.
Okay, means user database means same copy we need to keep
No,
into the
no,
order
no.
database.
So you are completely wrong. In the user database, user table, role table, right? Everything is going to be there. In the order database, order table is going to be there. But in order table, we are going to have a column called the user ID. So when the user logged in, that user ID will be will having with this user layer. That user ID will be passed from this user layer to your order service, and based on the user ID, it is going to retrieve the user information. I mean, it is going to retrieve the order information.
Okay, okay.
Clear?
Yes.
Okay. Anyone else having any question, guys?
So this would be a synchronous communication between the order service and the user service, right?
No, that is not synchronous. That is synchronous and asynchronous will come into the picture, right? Whenever there is an inter-service communication. And if UI layer is coming, right, UI layer is going to consume the order service, that is very straightforward service, right, straightforward communication. Right, they have to use RESTful API. And whenever this order service going to communicate with the product service, for example, when you are placing the order, whatever the product ID provided by the user, whether that product ID is valid or not. For that purpose, you need to communicate with the product service or not.
Product service. Yes, yes, product
That
service.
communication between products, order service and product service can be synchronous and asynchronous. So in that case, you need the data. You have to wait for the data. Then the communication is going to be synchronous. For example, your payment is confirmed or your order is confirmed. Once your order is confirmed, you can return to the UI that your order is placed. But behind the scene, you need to send one confirmation email to the customer. So that confirmation email sending functionality is going to be asynchronous. Why? Because I don't want the right UI or the user to wait till the email is sent. It can be happened in the back.
Yes.
That needs to be asynchronous. So that inter-service communication, you can use synchronous and asynchronous. From UI, it is completely RESTful API only. Clear?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Anyone else having any question, guys?
Yeah, so sir, I have one query. Okay, so since the services internally communicate with each other, okay, so how does this happen? Will there be any other intermediate microservice which through which we can communicate, or how is it?
See, for example, in the product service, there is some controller action method, or you can say HTTP method, right?
Okay.
Endpoint is there. So from this order, so can one service consume another service using the REST API?
Yes.
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 Of course.
So here they are providing some kind of an endpoint. That endpoint can be used by the CUI layer. That endpoint can also be used by order service. What I mentioned, once you develop the endpoint, that can be consumed by the mobile application, that can be consumed by the desktop application, that can be consumed by web application, that can be consumed by, right, what I can say RESTful API, or that, I mean IoT, that can be consumed by some other services as well. And coming to that synchronous, right, synchronous communication means HTTP based. And when it comes to asynchronous communication, so for that purpose, we are going to use some kind of an intermediary. Intermediate means you can go with the event-based approach. You are going to use RabbitMQ, Kafka, right? So many things are there which is going to make your intercommunication, right? GraphQL, right? Advanced, right, technology are there, which I'm going to discuss. How the intercommunication is going to be happening, what technology, what is the best for your application, which is going to give you the best performance, right? All these things we are going to discuss.
So those could be accomplished by tools or through services was my question. So
So
these
for that, So you have to develop, right? For example, product service, right? Order service. For
Okay.
communication between product and order service, here you need to develop some kind of, or in the product service, you need to enable, right? Some kind of, right? I mean, you need to write some internal logic, and logic will enable other service to communicate asynchronously. So you can consider that is a intermediary layer between the product and order service.
Okay. Okay. Got it.
I'm going to discuss those things. That is what we are going to learn in depth.
Okay, fine. Yeah, thanks.
Different technical stacks are there which we are going to use. Yes.
Sir, regarding scaling part, suppose I have two services on one server and I would like to scale only one service, then how it is possible?
That is not possible. So what
So,
see, you are not going to
uh,
scale the rate services. You are going to scale the server resources.
yes, yes. Okay, so we are considering here one service at one server.
Yes.
Okay, okay. Thank you.
There, guys.
Sir, here database is also physically different server.
Yeah, definitely. Your database is going to be some different server. See, wherever you host your services, you can put your database in that server, or you can create your database in a physical different server. It is up to you.
Okay.
So wherever you want, your database server is different, and your application server is going to be different most of the time. Your application server is going to communicate with the database. This database, it can be on a physical server, on a dedicated. You can consider they are going to be on different server.
Sir, but the business logic and data access layer will be on the same server?
See, in this case, what do you mean by this product service? Product service means it is going to contain product related API endpoint, product related business logic, product related data access logic.
Okay.
That means these three things are going to be within the product service, and this is going to be in a separate service. Order service
Separate.
means order related business logic, order related API, and order related data access layer. Clear?
Yeah, sure. Okay, sir. Thank you.
And this order service is going to deal with the order database only, not with the other database. If they want data from other database, then they have to use either rate synchronous approach or asynchronous approach. They have to use HTTP APIs or some kind of rate message broker, or you can say RabbitMQ, Kafka, whatever it may be. So that logic they have to use. Clear?
Sir,
Yes.
related to the database server question again,
Yes.
as you already mentioned, all the product service, order service, and other services are on the separate server. Okay,
Hmm.
and their databases are all also the separate one.
Hmm.
So, is there any possibility of all the databases are on the single database server, or
It
it
is
should
up to
be
you
on
only.
the
See, let me give you. If I develop these four services separately, if I host these four services in a single server, is there any issue?
No, sir, no issue. Yes.
Any issue? Is there any limitation
No
that
issue.
one
No issue.
server can have only one product service, one service? No. So in
no.
a single server, you can place all these four services. In a single server, you can place all these four databases. Even in a single server, you can place all these services as well as all these databases. It is only up to you how you are going to deploy, where you are going to deploy. Right?
Okay,
Clear or not?
understood. Yeah.
Anyone else having any question, guys?
But if you are putting in single server, the purpose is not achieved, right?
Yes,
The
you can go
purpose is
Microservice.
with
achieved.
the
See,
monolith.
if you are putting in the single server, only scalability will not be achieved. But other things can be achieved,
Okay.
na?
Okay. Okay.
Right? So that other things in the sense, if product service is down, other are not going to be impacted. If you want to develop a new feature in the order service, you can independently develop and deploy that. That is not going to be impacted by other services. Right? So only scalability will not be there. Other things are going to be there. Clear?
Yeah, sure, sir.
Yes.
Okay. Anyone else having any question, guys?
Sir, any disadvantages of microservices?
So disadvantages, it's very complex. Complex means you have to develop separate project. In each project, you have to develop separate class library project. One class library project, right? For example, if you want to see the architecture, right, how it is going to be built, right? Right. Let me show you the architecture, which is going to be very complicated one, right? For example, right, so this is how you need to develop. So a notification service, there is a separate API project, application layer, domain layer, infrastructure layer, test project. Similarly for order service, payment service, product service, user service. So this is going to be very complex from the architecture point of view. So earlier what you were doing, I'm creating a single project and I'm putting everything. Now for each service, I'm creating 5 different projects. So that initial development rate is going to be very difficult, or you can say little complexity, right? Otherwise, right, there is no disadvantages apart from that development, right? So
Mm-hmm.
how you are going to rate, set up the project, what are the different component, what component in each project, that is what designing is going to be little bit tricky. Otherwise, there is no such disadvantages. Initial development definitely going to take some time, but as your application grows, that will become a rate positiveness, or you can say advantages for you. Clear? The challenges is complexity. Managing the application architecture is going to be little bit challenges. And second thing, right, if you don't know what do you mean by synchronous communication, what do you mean by asynchronous communication, if you don't know right, how the server communication is going to be happening, then you cannot develop microservices. And that is not a problem, not an issue with your monolithic architecture, because there is no such inter-service communication happening, because same database, same code base, same business logic layer, so they can access the data from the database directly. But here, that the complexity is going to be very high. The technology or the stack or the concept, whatever we are going to discuss, that is completely new. If you are not aware of such technology, right, how the inter-service communication is going to be happening, what do you mean by event-based communication, right? What do you mean by synchronous, asynchronous, right? All these things you have to know very well, right? What is RabbitMQ, Kafka, GraphQL, Open Data Protocol, right? So all these things you need to understand. Without this thing, right, you cannot develop successful microservices. Clear? Learning is very complex,
Mm-hmm.
and the initial project development is going to be complex. And if you know how to develop microservices, then there is no, right, what I can say, challenges, or you can say limitation of microservices. Clear?
Okay, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Sir, I have a question.
Yes, please.
Um, Sir, when we work with APIs, so most of the time we deal with the related data. So when we pull out a data, we also pull out the related data if we work with. So as of now, related data, if you have the database, all the services under one database, so we just write join queries and get the related data. But here, as you said, every service will have their independent database, and to get the related data we have to do a separate API call or a message broker or internal communication. So will it not do impact the performance?
See, you just tell me, what do you mean by related data? See,
Uh,
if I'm fetching the order information, then I need to fetch what is the order items, that is the related data. But while I'm fetching the order information, if I'm fetching the payment information, this is not the right, what I can say, logic you should write. Why? There is a concept called single responsibility principle. If one method returning the order information, then it should deal with the order information, not related to the payment information. Right? If you are
mm,
see, you are taking that related data in a right other way. Other related data means, suppose I am fetching the order data. So what is the related data of order? Order list of order items. That order items is going to be the related data, not the product information. Product information is a separated data itself. Right? So here, related data also you can retrieve. Yes, if you need the product data, you can call a service and get the data from the from the other services. Getting my point? So order service. So what is the meaning of a SRP, single responsibility principle? You know, in Solid there is a principle called single responsibility principle. What is the meaning of that principle? One functions or one model should have only one responsibility.
responsibilities. Yeah.
Right? If I'm fetching the order data, then why should I fetch the product data? You just tell me.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
got you.
if
Yeah,
you
sir,
need
but we can get user data, right? So in the order table we can have user ID, right?
user ID is there by taking the
Yeah,
user ID.
I will get that user ID and I need to call again API, right? Here, related data I cannot get.
So using that user ID, you can go to the user table or user service. You can fetch the user information, right? By taking this order ID, you can call the payment service and get the related payment for that particular order. So that is possible.
Okay.
By taking the product ID, you can fetch the product information. That is what also possible. So in earlier stages, we are fetching the data from the database. Now we are not going to fetch the data from the database. Rather than we will fetch the data via the services. And that communication can be synchronous or asynchronous. Clear?
Yeah, clear.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But
Sir, so if
guys, yes,
sorry to
yes.
interrupt, sir. So if there are two services and we want to share data, you said everything needs to be passed. So there are no means that we could have session somewhere or something cached when we have two services communicating.
See, yes, caching is there. For example, here you are storing the product information. So that product data you can store in the cache. So cache
Okay,
means
and that cache. Mhm.
whenever the request comes for the same data, if the data is available in the cache, then this product service will return the data from the cache. Otherwise, you will get the data from the database, store the data in the cache, and then it will return to the order service. That caching service, the way you implemented, the same caching is also here. Okay, let me first give you the concept, right? Whatever we are going to discuss, right, so that you will understand. So this is chapter 1, what we have discussed today. I will discuss tomorrow whatever the core microservices design principle, right? This concept I'm going to discuss what is SRP, how you are going to fetch the data, right, from one application to another application. For example, you asked the related data, right? So how you are going to fetch the related data? That is what I'm going to discuss, right? For example, so here order service need the customer data. So order service can deal with the order database only, but not with the customer database. If he wants the data, then he needs to get the data via the customer service, not this direct communication. So all these things I'm going to discuss. What do you mean by single responsibility principle? All these things. So then, right, and then guys, remember, microservices is based on two important architecture. One is clean architecture, another one is domain-driven architecture. So tomorrow, what I'm going to discuss whatever the core microservices design principle and how you can develop one application using clean architecture. A complete application I will develop by following the clean architecture. And day after tomorrow, the third demo sessions, I'm going to discuss what is this domain-driven design, which is also one of the major, which is play major role in microservices architectural design. So we should, right, before proceeding and before developing our microservices, we should have a very good understanding about these two architectures. So how many of you know what is clean architecture and how to design application by following the DDD? How many of you know? Okay, fine. So first of all, I will explain these two things, right? So that you should have a very good understanding before proceeding. Then I will start with designing the microservices, right? What I can say, project setup. So how you are going to design the project setup, right? That what I have shown. Five independent project I'm going to create. In each project, I'm going to develop 5 services, right? For each service, there are 5 independent projects. So all these things I'm going to show you practically. I'm going to show you how the monorepo application is going to be developed, what do you mean by polyrepo, all these things I'm going to discuss. Then I will start creating the user service, starting with the user service, followed by the product service, followed by the order service. Then I'm going to develop the payment service and the notification service. For our e-commerce application, we're going to develop these 5 services. And for each service, it is going to be based on the real-time scenario. For example, if I'm going to develop the user service, then what are the functionality I'm going to provide? So I'm going to provide user registration authentication, how you can manage the profile data, how you can implement role-based, claim-based authentication, two-factor authentication, how you can manage multiple addresses for a user, how you can implement like password management. For example, you reset the password, forget the password, change the password. how you can manage the session management and security. Majorly here, session management means by using the JWT based authentication, how you can manage the user activity. I mean, when the user login, what is the last seen, right? How you can manage the account verification, whether the email is verified, whether the phone number is verified. So how you can integrate social sign in like Google, Facebook, and how you can provide some endpoint which is going to be consumed by other services, right, for the internal service communication. So all these things I'm going to discuss here. Then similarly, I'm going to discuss a product service, order service, right, payment service. So in payment service, I'm not going to integrate with any external payment gateway. That is not possible and feasible. Rather than what I'm going to do, I'm going to create some kind of a payment gateway simulator to achieve the same concept, right? I'm going to develop some dummy payment gateway you can consider, which is going to process the payment, which is going to mark a 60% payment as success, 20% payment as failed, 20% payment as pending. And those pending payment, I will show you how you can make rate success by using some kind of a backend services. All these things, so you can consider it is a completely real-time application. Then I'm going to discuss right, how the inter-service communication is going to be happening. So I'm going to discuss how the synchronous communication is possible using HTTP REST and the GPRC, right, gRPC. How the asynchronous communication is possible by using RabbitMQ and Kafka. So these things I'm going to discuss. So here you can see data management strategies, right? How you can manage the data in a distributed transaction if the API is failed, how you can implement the retry pattern, right? So for in that purpose, how you can implement Saga pattern, two-phase commit, event sourcing, command query, responsibility creation, that is cost. So all these things we are going to discuss. We are also going to discuss what do you mean by API gateway and service discovery. So these are the concepts which are new to microservices. I'm going to discuss in depth. I will also discuss what do you mean by rate limiting and throttling. So basically, if your application getting thousand already heavy load means some of the unnecessary load are sending to your application. Some you can say overload or abuse. So one from a particular endpoint or from a particular IP address, you are getting thousand of requests per second. So how you can handle such scenarios in your application? How you can avoid rate those requests? So that is what we are going to discuss. How to implement security in microservices, right? How to improve performance with caching. So you asked related to that caching. That caching concept also I'm going to discuss with Redis, right? Also, I'm going to discuss advanced communication techniques, messaging, and integration. So I'll explain what is gRPC. I will explain how to implement event-driven application. So event-driven application means it is some kind of a publisher and subscriber. So there is a publisher, there is a subscriber. Subscriber will will subscribe to the event, and when that event is raised, whoever the subscriber subscribe to that event, they are going to be fired that event automatically. So how it is going to be implemented using RabbitMQ and Kafka, I'm going to discuss in detail, right? That Kafka concept, right? Apache Kafka, I'm going to discuss, right? How it is going to be right, placed with microservices. I'm going to discuss advanced messaging techniques like mass transient, right? That CQRS and event sourcing. So in the previous chapter, if you look here, I'm going to provide the basic information, right? In this case, the basic information is going to be there, inter-service communication. And then those concepts I'm going to explain in depth in the upcoming chapter, that is advanced communication, right? Then I'm going to discuss, right, what is OData, Open Data Protocol. This is, right, guys, remember this Kafka concept is requested by some of the member. This OData is requested by someone else, right? That is the reason why I'm appending this OData. OData means Open Data Protocol. So for example, you can define one endpoint where you need to write some kind of a query. The query, instead of generating by the server, you can send the query from the UI. How it is going to be applicable, right? That is what I'm going to discuss. So this GraphQL and the open data is very similar, but they are going to work in a different manner. That is what I'm going to discuss. How you can handle the rate failing scenarios, observability, how you can implement right API versioning. All these things I'm going to discuss in detail. Right, containerization and load balancing means how you can host the application into Docker, how you can host the application into Kubernetes, right? How to implement CI/CD pipeline, how to implement right load balancing. So all these things I'm going to discuss as part of this right, what I can say this chapter, right? And finally, I will complete with the unit testing, right? Unit testing means not only unit testing, how to integrate integration testing, how to implement end-to-end testing, right? All these things I'm going to discuss. And finally, someone asked me to include .NET Aspire, so that is also what I'm going to implement, or you can say that will be the last chapter of our syllabus. So this is all about the course syllabus and structure, and this information I have already provided. If now anyone having any question, they can ask me related to the right, whatever, not related to today's session, whatever we discuss, but related to this training program. One by one, please.
Sessions would be every day.
Okay, so that what I have not mentioned, sessions, right, Monday to Friday. Clear? Sessions are from
Yes.
Monday to Friday.
Okay. Yep. Thank you. And if we miss any day, so would you be sending us recording that day itself so that we are covered up for the next session?
Yes. That is what I am doing in all my sessions, right? To those who are already attending my sessions, ASP.NET Core and all. So recorded session will be provided as well as the documentation. For example, today I discussed one red topic, that is introduction part. So this document, whatever I show in the presentation, this document along with the red recording, I will provide to everyone, whoever enrolled for this training program, so that you can practice yourself, you can prepare yourself. And again, the source code, everything I'm going to share with you, so that you can be ready and also you can prepare for the interview, right? Everything, whatever I'm going to explain, I'm going to explain through pictorial so that you can easily remember. Instead of going through this theoretical definition, if you imagine this picture on your mind, it will be help you. So everything I'm going to share. Next question, please.
So, is there any chance to cover Azure services? I mean, like telemetry or managed identity?
No, so that is part of a Azure training, not microservices. So for Azure, what is required? How to host the application in Microsoft Azure using Docker Kubernetes. That is what I'm going to discuss. But for Azure services, you need to learn, right? You need to join Azure training.
Okay.
And I think someone else asked this question in the group also related to Azure services. That what I have already mentioned. See, microservices is majorly related to your core development, not related to hosting. Yes, hosting is possible. Cloud hosting is there. That is what I am going to include. But microservices is more related to your development, not related to your hosting and all these things.
So we are not going to cover the deployment, any cloud side.
So I think you have missed these two parts. So I have mentioned Docker is there, Kubernetes is there. So this is means cloud hosting. Cloud hosting is there. Even I'm also going to show you how you can do the in-process hosting right on your local server, as well as I'm going to host the services in cloud also.
Cloud means will you show Azure or AWS, sir?
Azure, because I .NET people means we're very acquainted with Azure, not mandatory, but I don't have that much of experience in the AWS. I worked on Azure, so I'm going to show you this thing on Azure.
Yeah, sure.
Sir, do you cover the CI/CD pipeline in this topic?
Yes, CI/CD pipeline is there, right? So CI/CD pipeline is there. So how you can automate the process, that is what I'm going to discuss.
Okay.
Pranay, are we using Azure Service Bus?
No.
Okay.
Are you explaining? Are you explaining failure concept and retry concept and the circuit breaking, all those things in the microservices?
Yes. So okay, let me go ahead and show you this thing. So all these things I'm going to use: retry, circuit breaker, fallback. Clear?
Right.
Poly, I'm going to
Yes.
use poly. So all these things are there. So I have designed this syllabus, right? So that most of the concept I'm going to cover. If anything is left, right, which is related to microservices, also I'm going to include. But don't expect that Azure services and all these things I'm going to cover. That is part of your Azure training.
Recording will be accessible throughout or it's an unlimited access or for a year?
No, no, not for an year, right? Those who have already attended my ASP.NET Core session, they know how I'm going to provide the recorded sessions and how long they can access. So it is for lifetime. Each day, I'm going to share the recorded session and the documentations, and you can access this recorded session for lifetime. There is no 1 year, no 5 year, lifetime you can access.
Sir, how to enroll for how to
Right,
enroll for this?
for enrolling, right, I have mentioned that course fee is 10,000, right? Okay, let me open the, right, guys, those who want to enroll, take a screenshot of this payment details. Right, okay, let me share these things, right, on the chat window so that you can have a look about the payment information. Guys, I have also provided some contact number, email ID and Telegram group. Please join this Telegram group where I'm going to upload this recorded session, today's session. Also, I have shared the payment details, my WhatsApp number. You can contact me for the payment, and partial payment option is also available. Right, so partial payment option is also available for payment related queries. You can join. And coming to this batch, 70 members have already enrolled, 30 seats are left, and those who want to enroll, they can make the payment and they can confirm their seats.
Are we going to get any confirmation email or something after we do payment?
A confirmation email means what? So after payment, I'll add you into the private Telegram group where only the paid members are going to be there. And in the private Telegram group, once the main session started, only the main sessions recording and the documentations I'm going to upload there. And from there you can access. And there also I'm going to provide the new Zoom credential using which you can attend the main sessions.
Okay.
But why can't you use the WhatsApp group instead of Telegram?
In WhatsApp, it is not possible to upload the videos. For example, 2-hour video. Is that feasible to upload in the WhatsApp?
But you can upload it in Google Drive or something, and then we can access it, right?
But in Google Drive there is some issue. Issue is that for that purpose I need to buy heavy, right? I need to pay money to Google because the recording is going to be 2 hour and that size is going to be more than 1 GB, and I cannot upload all the sessions on Google because for that purpose, for the maintenance purpose, I need to pay on monthly basis. And second thing is that in Google when I upload earlier, what people are doing, they just download the video and upload it on their YouTube channel.
Yes. Oh, what is the end date of this program actually? Like,
Sorry,
as you
end date.
mentioned
So
on
3 months.
3 months. Yes.
See, it is 3 months. I can't say what is the end date exactly, but what I can give you or what I can assure you, whatever the syllabus I have provided, chapter by chapter, each chapter I'm going to explain sequentially. Until and unless all the chapters are not covered, the syllabus is not completed. Even though if something new comes to as part of this training program, those new concepts are also going to be included. So there is no end date. So once your batch is completed, again, don't consider that the sessions are completed. When a new session starts, if something new is going to be discussed in that batch, again, I will allow you guys to attend those sessions. So there is no end date, only starting from today. It is the never-ending session you can consider.
Okay, thank you.
Next
Sir,
question.
sir, are
Sorry.
we covered the Elasticsearch with Kibana and health check
Yes,
monitoring?
Elasticsearch and Kibana is there, right? That observability tracing, that is also part of this one. Elasticsearch with Kibana, that is also included as part of this training program, as part of learning.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Next
Sir,
question, please.
my question is related to the practical one. So, are you going to do the practicals on in sessions or
As you mentioned on labs.
yeah, right?
See,
Or
see,
are you
right?
providing the
No, no,
code
no.
based?
So everything, so whatever I'm going to discuss, I will show you everything practically in the live session. So you just attend tomorrow session and day after tomorrow session, right? What I mentioned. Tomorrow I'm going to develop. First of all, I will discuss the theoretical concept, and tomorrow I'm going to develop this clean architecture. Practical, it is going to be practical. So domain-driven design. So first of all, I will explain the theoretical concept. Then I'm going to discuss the practical. So how you can see, while learning theory is not sufficient, so you have to implement this practical. For example, right? For example, I have right. I'm going to discuss, suppose I'm going to discuss this domain-driven design. So first of all, I will explain what is domain-driven design, how the applications, what are the different entities, right? How you can consider, right? What is the benefit of using domain-driven, how the domain expert and the developer consider the project, right? Or the domain concept internally, right? So by giving some real-time example, then I will explain you the architecture of a domain-driven design. Then what are the layers, right? That what makes this domain-driven design application, right? What is the use of each layer? And then I will start developing the real-time application. So I will start, right? I will explain you what are the different project I'm going to develop as part of why I'm going to develop. I'm going to start from creating the empty solution, adding all this project, and then the project solution is going to something like this. I will show you this thing practically. Then I'm going to define each entities, right? Whatever the entities you need to define, whatever the customer entity, right? Address entity, so order entity, right? Then I'm going to define, or once you define the order entity, how you can define the repository, where you need to define the order customer, all this repository, where you need to define the service classes, what are the packages you need to install in infrastructure layer, how to define the DB context class, right? So how to define the product repository class, order repository class, customer repository class, what is the use of a application layer where you need to define services and the DTOs, what is the use of a DTOs, whatever all DTOs you need to use, right? Service implementations, right? Then I'm going to discuss, right, the presentation layer, that is going to be your, right, API controller. So how to use automate mapper. So all these things I'm going to show you all these things practically. So not only practical, theoretical concept, interview questions, practical demonstration based on the real-time scenario. Every example, whatever I'm going to discuss, it is not a simple one or you can say basic one, completely real-time scenario. So that right, you can prepare yourself not only from the interview point of view, concept point of view, but also the practical implementation. So every concept I'm going to explain through practical, and that is what also I mentioned in the syllabus. So here, if I'm going to discuss microservices, right, for example, user service. So whatever the topics to be covered means, this is not only going to be discussed theoretically, but I will show you how you can implement this practically. So practically, how to provide the user registration endpoint, authentication endpoint, how you can maintain multiple resources, how to design the database, how to implement JWT. Practically, I'm going to show you. Clear?
Yes. And by day, are we implementing all the microservices
Yes, yes.
or
Yes.
the modules?
Going to start. I'm going to start. See what I mentioned. The systematically chapter I have provided. Chapter by chapter I'm going to discuss, right? Why? See, before developing microservices, you should have very good understanding about two things. What are the things? One is a clean architecture and one is a domain-driven design. So without this thing, you will not understand this microservices. So that is the reason why before starting, I'm explaining what is clean architecture, what is domain-driven design. I will start with the right users. First of all, I will show you how you can develop the project setup. Then I'm going to discuss how to create the microservices, user microservice, then product, then order, then payment, then notification. Then I will start with the inter-service communication, and then I'm going to go with the advanced communication and other techniques. So day by day, chapter by chapter, and in chapter, whatever the things I'm going to cover, everything I'm going to show you practically.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
is completely practical based approach.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean I'm going to explain the theoretical concept. Theory is also important because without understanding the theory, it's not possible to implement practical, and without practical, theory is useless.
Correct. My question is related to the code base. Are you going to the code base in the this sheet, or is there any GitHub repos are
See,
there?
see, see. Two things I need to explain you. I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to provide the code base, but at the end of the project. Why? Because if I'm providing the code base from day one, then what you will do, you will not do practices and you will get the code from GitHub and just to do it. So what I want is, as long as I'm doing the same thing in the live session, I'm going to develop the project. I'm going to implement the application in the live session. So I want you to do the same thing on your local machine. And for developing that application, whatever all code required, that's what I'm going to provide, but you have to do it on your machine. But at the end, when the project is completed, I will provide that complete source code to everyone.
Understood. Understood.
right? Because practical, say, if you are getting the code from the GitHub and if you do not practice, doesn't make sense. So you have to do practices. Next question, please.
Sir, if we are doing this project in our own system, will we be able to install that Kafka, RabbitMQ, the dev version in our system?
I'm here to show you how to install Kafka on your Windows machine. And most of the people are having Windows machine. How to do this thing? I will show you practically.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, sir.
Right. So if I'm mentioning
Sir,
something,
can you let us know any prerequisites are there to go ahead with this
sorry,
microservice? Any prerequisite softwares are there to install?
prerequisites means for developing ASP.NET Core application, what software you need? First of all, you just tell me. If you want to develop
Visual
any
Studio
ASP,
2022.
yeah, Visual Studio 2022. And for database, you definitely need one SQL Server database and SSMS. Yes or no?
Yes.
Yeah, yes.
So what is the prerequisites means? There is nothing prerequisites for microservices. Whatever software required for developing ASP.NET Core project, that is required. So you should have Visual Studio 2022. You should have SQL Server and SSMS, the client tool. Whatever version is fine. And you should install .NET SDK 8.0.
Sir, I
.NET
have a
SDK.
small question.
Yes, please.
Sir, the last few days I removed my Windows and install Ubuntu for performance issue. So can I able to install all the requisite things in Ubuntu machine?
See, how to do this thing in Ubuntu, I have no idea. But that is not impossible, right? For that purpose, you have to use Visual Studio Code,
Okay, sir. Okay, sir.
right? Visual
Yes.
Studio Code is there, that what you can use. But right, coming to right that Linux and other machine, I have no idea, to be saying frankly, how the things are working. And if you are using Ubuntu, then you should know, right, how to develop the application using Ubuntu.
Okay, sir, I can manage. Okay,
Yeah.
thank you, sir.
Yeah, I have one question. Are we developing a single application for the entire 23 chapters, or the demo is through multiple small applications?
No. So, see, you just tell me what is
Yeah.
your main objective? Your main objective, how to develop real-time application or real-time microservices using ASP.NET Core Web API. So, does it matter developing a small application or a complete real-time application? So, in this session, what I'm developing a completely real-time application using microservices, right, along with the ASP.NET Core Web API. A single
So,
application I will develop. That
yeah,
application
so
is real-time one.
yeah, so in the interviews we can clearly tell this is a real-time project that we have done. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
correct. Yeah. And
Right?
are we
That
going to get a GitHub link for the
is what
project at the end?
what I have mentioned. So that GitHub link I will share at the end of the project, not from the
Yes, yes.
beginning.
Sure.
That is what I have already mentioned in the previous, right? Someone asked this question. So
Yeah.
can we get the source code on right on GitHub? Yes, but not from the beginning. From the beginning, you have to start developing on your machine. At the end, I will share the GitHub link.
Sure.
Right? And if you do practices right on a daily basis, then that GitHub link is not required for you. Those who are not going to do practices, they will right need that GitHub link at the end.
One question, sir.
Yes,
Right
please.
now, are there any trainings going on Azure AZ204 or 400?
The Azure DevOps, right? One weekend batch is going on related to Azure DevOps. Other
Okay.
things like Azure Administrator, Developer, Associate, and Fundamental. Yeah.
So my father started the hospital
Who is
20
on
years
mute?
ago. Your father started.
Who is that? Right? Please mute
I have
yourself.
I have one more question. Actually, in interviews, not only microservices real-time project, but in few interviews, they're asking, are you having real-time Azure functions, real-time service apps, such projects also? So, do you have any plan to introduce such tutorial also going further, where you have extensively used Azure functions, logic apps, and Azure service bus like that?
Exactly. So that is what I'm saying. That so you are right comparing two things. Two things
Yeah.
means microservices is different, Azure is different,
Yes, yes.
right? So whatever the Azure services versus you are talking about, for that purpose you need to learn Microsoft Azure.
Correct.
Right? And microservices is in, that I have mentioned again and again. Microservices is related to your core development. So how you are going to architecture your application into different microservices, how the microservices are going to communicate with each other, right? That is what we are going to develop. Along with what are the
Yes.
advanced technology stacks, that is what I'm going to implement. And Azure services versus means for that purpose you need to join Azure sessions.
Oh,
Right?
okay. Yeah.
Right, currently I'm not taking any Azure sessions. In future it might be possible because I'm a working professional. I'm taking only 2 sessions. One in this I have started from today. This is microservices, and in the evening 8:30 to 10 I'm taking a ASP.NET core sessions. Right. In future, if possible, then I can take microservices, sorry, Azure session. And one of my colleague, right, he's taking Azure sessions. Right. New batch will start very soon, and keep in touch. I will update right when the new batch is going to start. Okay.
Yeah, please update us. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Anyone else
I have
having
a
any more
question.
questions? Yes,
Sir,
please.
are we getting? I have
Sir, are we
question, Pranay.
getting
Yes, please go ahead.
sir, are we
Pranay,
getting recording session as edited or like as it is, like whatever we are recording now?
Oh no, so recorded session are as it is. I'm not going to edit anything because right, I'm not going to waste my time by editing all these things. So whatever the recorded session that is raw recorded, that raw recording will be provided to everyone, including the question answer, whatever it is.
Sure, sir. Thank you.
Yes, someone is asking some question.
Yeah,
Yes, please.
Pranay. This side Pandu. So, are we using any third-party APIs? Are we integrating any third-party APIs in this project?
So you just tell me whenever I'm developing order service and payment service, right? And
Yeah.
from the order service to get the data from the payment service. In that case, it's not this a third-party API.
Yeah, third-party API. I mean, the Google payment or PayPal payment, something like that. We can use that.
So you just tell me, sir, that Google payment or PayPal is that feasible?
Is that?
I mean, right, getting that API paying amount, so is that feasible for us?
Not sure. I mean,
See,
not the payment,
they're
but
going
anything like leaky password checks or any simple third-party APIs.
you
Kind
go
of.
ahead. See, I'm wondering, right, why you are thinking that third-party API means it's a very difficult or huge thing, right? For example, if you are developing two different services, if you are consuming one service from another, then the whatever Google APIs or whatever other APIs they are developing, that is also going to be same. And coming to your point, yes, I'm going to use some kind of external services. External services means whenever I'm going to develop, integrate with the social side, and I mean how you can use a login with the using Google account, how the user can log in using Facebook account. That time I'm going to show you how you can consume their services.
Their service. Got it. Got it. Got it.
But
Yeah.
at the
Yeah.
end, doesn't matter whether you are using your own services as third-party services or whether the Google services as third-party services. What you need the API endpoint, you need the key, whatever is required as part of the right to send the request. That's it. Nothing else.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's not complex, but to make sure that if we are using that, so we can have an picture of that, how we are using the third party and how we can send the request to that endpoint, and then how we are getting the response and how we are validating that response. So in that case, I'm just making sure if we are using that. So yeah.
See, I mentioned that support for Google, Facebook, and other service providers. So for this purpose,
Got it. Yeah.
you need to consume their services.
Got
Sir,
it.
are
Yeah.
we covering authorization and authentication?
Sorry?
Are we covering authorization, authentication? Authentication and authorization?
So which authentication you are talking about?
In microservices, are we covering authentication and authorization?
Yeah, definitely. So what is the
Right.
use of this user model?
Yeah.
So we are going to implement JWT, right? How to generate the after login, you need to generate one token based on the
Right.
user, right? We are going to define what is the role of the user. Based on the user role, how he can access some services, he cannot access some other services. So all this, right? Not only the JWT based authentication, we are going to discuss how to generate the refresh token, right? Based on the refresh token, how will you get the access token, right? We are going to implement role-based authentication, claim-based authentication. All these things we are going to implement along with I'm going to discuss, right? Two-factor authentication, right? How you can enable 2FA, how to integrate Google, Facebook, and other over the provider. All these things are going to be discussed. Clear?
Hello.
Yes.
Yes. Sir, those who have registered, so when you will be adding to the private group?
The private group I have not yet created, but before the main session, I will add you, right?
Okay.
Mostly today or tomorrow, I will share the right private group link so that you can join.
Okay,
Right?
thank you.
Because most of the seats are already filled. 70 members have already registered. 30 seats are left. I hope for today or tomorrow, all the seats are going to be filled. And then, right, I will create the private group and I will join you all guys who are already enrolled.
So once the payment or session is done, we need to inform on this WhatsApp number which is currently
Yes,
been
yes.
shown?
See, once you make the payment, right, what you need to do, you just need to share the payment screenshot either in my WhatsApp number or in the Telegram. So my Telegram account is there. So you can share the payments is not in the public Telegram group. In the Telegram, you can share that message to me. Otherwise, you can share the message to my WhatsApp number. See.
Okay.
Message in the sense that payment screenshot.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Hello,
is
sir.
there any installment available and
Yes,
how
yes.
much
So
amount is?
I have already mentioned that the installment options available. So 50% you have to pay now, 5,000, and the rest 5,000 in the first week of August.
And
Okay.
also, there is so much content. Is it going to be covered in 3 months?
Sorry?
There is so much content like that is listed.
Oh, definitely. See, if we are right behind the timeline, then I can increase the duration, right? Generally, I took the session 2 hours. Here I mentioned 6:30 to 8, but it will
Mhm.
be called 8:30.
Yeah,
Right? That
that
is
question I was having, sir. I mean, so it will be till 8 only, or it will be extended till 8:39 means.
8:30, 6:30 to 8:30, right? Generally, those who have attended my sessions, they know it's very well. I mentioned 1 hour 30 minutes, but it can be increased to 2 hours. Sometimes I'm going to take the sessions on weekend also. If I'm taking weekend all sessions, that is also going to be long hour sessions. But yes, if I mentioned it is 3 hour, 3 months. If not possible, it can be increased by 1 week or 2 weeks. But that means, but that doesn't mean I'm going to skip any chapter or anything. Every concept I'm going to explain it. Clear?
Do we
Yes.
have any refreshment sessions on weekend? Anything like if we stuck?
See, any replacement session? No. See, because right, what is the need of a refreshment session? So because these sessions are going to be live and interactive. So whenever I'm explaining, I will give enough time to ask the question, and until and unless I'm not clarifying all your doubt, I will not move further. So this is going to be real time and live session. Yes, in weekend, if I got some questions or some right, if you are asking some question and queries, right, I will provide you the discussion group where you can put your question. And if I feel that for this question I need a live session, then I can include or I can create some session. Otherwise, not.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
But yes, yeah. So you might have another question, sir. We missed the live session, and after going through the recording, we are having some doubt. How you can clarify those doubts? Then for that purpose, what you need to do, you need to join the next session. Whatever the topics I have decided for that session, first of all, I will cover. Once I cover that topic, you have to wait and you can clarify all your doubt related to the previous session. Clear?
Yes, got it. Thank you.
Hello.
Yes.
We are covering coding standard, means how to make coding standard in this.
Yes, sir, definitely. See, not only this session, right? Whenever I'm developing the application, I always follow the best coding practices. Which coding standard will give you better performance, secure, right? What should be the best approach? That is what I'm going to follow. Best coding
So for
practices,
that,
right?
okay, so for that we are using Sonar when deploying. We are using Sonar, Cube, and these things also. Styles
So,
of
So actually, your voice is not clearly right audible to me. Does anyone explain what he is asking?
I think
I'm
for
saying,
Sonar Cube he is asking.
Yeah,
Sorry,
Sonar Cube is asking, sir. Sonar Cube for coding practices.
I'm not getting still. So what exactly what coding standard he is asking?
Pranay, he's asking for the Sonar Cube for the deployment.
Hello, guys, am I audible?
Yeah, you are audible. He's asking about Sonar Cube.
So even I'm not aware about that sonar cube. What is this? I'll do some research. To be frankly share, sonar cube, right? What is
yes,
that cube?
Sonar Q. So this will just give some suggestion that your code is
Uh,
duplicate and this thing.
Pranay, is
It is the
Sonar
code
Cube.
quality checking into the
Sonar Cube.
Sonar
Okay,
Cube,
okay.
sir.
I will check.
QUBE.
I will check, and I will check, and I will come back because I cannot tell right anything at this moment because I'm not aware about that particular concept or terminology, whatever you are asking. So I'll think about it and I will check what is exactly this. And coming to your coding practices, right? Best practices I'm going to give you. Because those who have already attended my ASP.NET core sessions, they know it's very aware, right, very well that I always follow the best practices. What is the best one? Why I'm using this one? When to use echo loading? When to use lazy loading? Right? When to use as no tracking? How the entity is being tracked? How the operations are going to be performed? Why you should not fetch all this information, right? Why you should not expose all the data? Why you need to use DTOs, right? What should be the right, where you need to create indexes and why you should create indexes, right? All these things I'm going to discuss, right? That is what I'm going to follow, but coming to this on RQ, I will check and I will come back. Yes, next question please, guys. Next question please. Anyone else having any question?
Why there is a limit of like 100 students?
Sorry,
No, you are mentioning only 100 seats available. 100 seats are there. Like, what is the reason of only 100 seats?
reason means is the Zoom credential or the Zoom membership whatever I have taken to allow
Mm-hmm.
maximum 100 members per session.
Okay.
Next question please.
No questions, it is fine.
Hello.
Yes.
Hello, sir. Uh, can we get at least idea how to deploy on Azure?
Yeah, so I think you have missed the syllabus whenever I'm discussing. So I have mentioned two concepts. One is Docker and Kubernetes. So that Docker and Kubernetes is nothing but related to deploying your application into Azure.
But it is it can be locally done. But
But
how
not
we are
locally,
going to
not
deploy?
locally, not locally. So what, if I'm mentioning Docker and Kubernetes means I'm going to show you how you can deploy the application into Microsoft Azure.
Okay, okay.
So this
Means
chapter means
practically, yeah. What
practically
I
to
want to know. Okay,
whatever five services we have developed, how you can host,
okay,
I mean, how you can deploy these services into Microsoft Azure. I'm going to create account and I will show you practically how you can deploy these services.
okay. So
In
practically in real time, companies are using RabbitMQ or Azure Service Bus only.
see, RabbitMQ is different. That is for inter-service communication, and Azure
Right.
service is different one. Right? That Azure service I'm not going to cover here. I'm going to cover RabbitMQ.
Okay, no, but my question is, actually, if we are going for real time, what industries are using? So, my question is, whether RabbitMQ is being used by the companies?
Okay. RabbitMQ is used by companies. Along with the same time, Azure Service Buses are also used by the company. See, if you ask me,
Okay,
companies are using Java or .NET. Some companies they are using Java. Some companies they are using .NET. Whichever companies they decide we need to go with this stack or we need to go with that stack, that is up to them only, right? Both concepts are exist and both are being used by the companies, right? And if you know both, that is well and good. Clear?
Okay. Yeah. So basically, we are going to get the idea, whatever the real-time companies are using for all the parts, right?
Yes.
Okay. And one question related to database. Actually, in one example, I saw that suppose we have one application. It was for workshop management. What they were doing, like for vendor management, when they were creating that vendor data, few parts of the data at the same time through message queue, they were saving into other microservices. This
Right.
was their approach for database.
Right, exactly.
So is it the same way we are going to develop
Right.
or
For example, see, once the order is created, then I need to initiate the payment. I need to initiate the payment, right? So order service
Right.
database is different, payment service database is different. So using
Right.
message queue, right? I can initiate the right payment. I can initiate the functionality, or you can say using message queue or that asynchronous, right? You can initiate one entry into the payment database. That is what we are going to discuss. And for that is nothing but you can consider inter-service communication that can be happening in two ways. One is based on synchronous, another one is based on the asynchronous. For synchronous, you can use RESTful API, GPR, gRPC. For asynchronous, you can make use of RabbitMQ and Kafka.
no, but what I said that when they were suppose we are in uh, uh, making entries into product services, what that application was doing, that like whatever the columns they were needing into another microservices, at the time of entry into product services, they are keeping it into another microservices.
Okay, that is what I'm saying now. Suppose you want to make an entry into the order database, order table, and there
Okay.
is also payment table, payment database, right? So while you are making
Okay.
an entry into the order database, order table, directly the service will communicate with the database, order database, and make an entry. But now, if they want to make an entry into the payment database, payment table, how that is going to be possible? For that purpose, they have to use some kind of a communication mechanism.
Right.
That is what nothing but the use of a message broker, or you can say asynchronous communication. So how it is going to be possible? For that purpose, they are going to use RabbitMQ, Kafka, right? That technology or technical stuff.
Hello. Sir, one
Yes.
last question.
Yes, sir. First of all, wait. First of all, let me clarify her doubt. Then I will take your question. Right? Is that clear?
Sure, sure.
So in that case, order service is going to insert the data into the database of a payment service, but not directly,
Okay.
but by a message broker or whatever.
Message. Yeah.
Yeah. For using that message broker, so I'm saying message broker. Technically, it is going to be RabbitMQ, Kafka. So that is
Or
what they are going to use internally.
okay. And one more question. Actually, basically, when we can't wait for the response, like for order, user can't wait, so we are making gRPC or something like that, synchronous call,
If they
right?
can't wait, if they wait,
Can't
that is
wait, user,
can't
yeah,
wait means
timing.
they have to use asynchronous. For example, order is placed. Once the order is placed, once the order is confirmed, we need to return immediately to the UI. We don't want to wait whether the order email is sent successfully to the red user's email address or not. So that functionality we can make it asynchronous. And here we can, right, after initiating that event, we can return to the client.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
Is that clear?
Hello.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Please go ahead. Next question.
Sir, are we gonna use the master and slave database concepts here in each microservice?
The master and
slave database.
what is the need?
Means the all the create, update, and delete will done in one database and read will from another database.
Not like that. This is a transactional database, right? Everything, right? For example, I'm creating one order mix. it is going to be in the order database. So once the order is created, then I need to retrieve that order information, then it is going to be from the same database.
Okay.
Right? But for each service, we are going to have a different database.
Okay.
Right? And for your program, the transactional data and historical data, if you want to keep, then you can write it. This is going to be the transactional database. And then once write this is done, then you can move this data to a different database for the verification, or you can say to check how many that is on that database. You can consider that is going to be performed only for the read operation. But this is going to be transactional. Transactional means live data. Whatever the operation is performing, that data we need to keep here.
Okay.
Clear, guys?
Yes.
Yeah, one quick question from my side.
Yes, please.
Yeah, so I'm not sure about how adapters work, but are we using any adapters or any API to API communication
Yes,
services?
that is what we are discussing from the beginning. So for client, they are going to use RESTful API. But for the inter-service communication, you have two options. You can go with the synchronous as well as you can go with the asynchronous, right? Synchronous and asynchronous, how event-based communication is happening. All these things, that is what we are going to discuss. For example, you can make use of a message broker. If the order service wants to communicate with the product service, how it is going to communicate, whether in a synchronous manner or asynchronous manner. So that is what we are going to discuss in detail. What are the different ways, right? That is what that is the main objective of microservices.
Got it. Yeah. Yeah.
Clear?
Thanks. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
Next question, please.
Are we going to cover any design patterns, like extra design patterns into this architecture?
So extra design pattern means what? So first of all, we are learning the clean architecture and the DDT.
Yes.
So these are the two different design patterns. That is what we need to follow. And coming to our application, wherever required the repository design pattern, dependency injection design pattern, right, factory design pattern, that is what we are going to develop as per our requirement.
Okay.
Singleton design pattern, right? So whatever, as per say, here our main objective to learn microservices, not to learn design patterns, right? So if some requirement is there for that particular requirement, a particular design pattern fits, then definitely we are going to use that design pattern.
Yes, got it. Thank you.
One more question. For data consistency, are we going to use outbox pattern or something?
Yeah, data concept distributed data management is there, right? I'm going to use some mechanism, right, to make sure the data is going to be consistent throughout the operations, right? For example, if I'm making any entry into the order service, then it should have entry into the payment service, right? So without that payment service data, I cannot confirm the order service. How we are going to maintain the consistency, right? That is also what we are going to discuss, right? Distributed data management, right? If you see, there is a topic that is distributed transactions, right? The transaction which span across multiple databases, how you can manage them effectively. That is what we are also going to discuss.
Okay, thank you.
Pranaya,
Yes,
in
yes,
this
please.
diagram, we are having HTTP APIs and RESTful APIs. I mean, can you just explain the difference between them? I mean,
So HTTP APIs and REST API.
yeah, I mean, for the intercommunication, it's mentioned like HTTP APIs or
This
message
REST,
broker.
this REST API is same as HTTP. See, this RESTful API, whatever we are saying, to access this API, we need the HTTP protocol or not?
Yeah, we need it. Yeah.
Yeah, so that is RESTful API. And here, whatever I'm saying, HTTP API is nothing but similar to your REST API. Or you can say RESTful API, which is basically used for synchronous communication. And coming to this message broker, this is for asynchronous communication, or you can say event-based communication, which is also one of the way to communicate with each other. For example, the order service there. He can access the data from the product service using this RESTful API if they expose some method, or he can communicate with this using the message broker, or it can say asynchronous communication. Both options are there.
Got
right?
it. Thank you.
So REST
Sir,
API, REST API meaning is the same. Yes, please.
Sir, are we going to use any NoSQL?
Any?
NoSQL like CosmoDB or
No, no.
any
Database
NoSQL?
you can see. Database you can use anyone, right? I'm going to use SQL Server. You can go with NoSQL. You can go with the MySQL. You can go with the Oracle SQL. For databases you can use. But at the end, whatever the logic we are going to write, we are going to write using entity framework or code fast approach only. Database here doesn't make any matter. What is matter? Because we are not going to write any database related logic directly in the database. We are going to use entity framework or code fast approach.
Okay, like these days we just in between uh, some transaction we have some NoSQL also coming, so we
That
just
is fine.
store.
See, let me give you the clarity. So here, our main objective is not what database to use and how to communicate with the database. Here, our main objective is to understand the microservices concept. For microservices, what database you are using behind the scene doesn't matter. If you want, you can go with NoSQL. If you are having good experience into MongoDB, you can use MongoDB, no issue. If you are having good experience into MySQL, you can use MySQL, no issue. If you are having good SQL knowledge with Oracle, you can use Oracle database. If you are having good experience with SQL Server, you can use SQL Server. So what I have mentioned from the beginning, that whenever you are developing each service, that technological stack is independent. Some people they are good at MySQL, Java. They can go ahead and develop the product service using MySQL and Java. Some are good at .NET and SQL Server. They can go ahead to .NET and SQL. Some are good at .NET and MySQL. They can go ahead to .NET and MySQL. Some are good at Java with NoSQL. They can use Java and NoSQL. So that is not an issue. So whatever the technology stack you want to use, whatever the database you want to use, that is independent. So you can decide as per your convenience. Clear?
Yes, sir. Regarding that same point, maybe I can add something because when we are using NoSQLs like MongoDB, so let's say for there are 10 collections. So each collection, if each collection is individual thing, then we can go with MongoDB. I mean, like NoSQL. If there is a relation between two tables or two entities, then we will go with MySQL, right? I mean, in
So
general, like.
that is the relational. So what is the meaning of a relational and non-relational? So if there is some dependent data, then definitely you need to go with MySQL. If there is no relation, then you can go with
Then
NoSQL.
we'll be
So
going with
in this
NoSQL.
case, right, and coming to this microservices architecture, it doesn't matter whether you are using NoSQL or MySQL,
Got it.
right? If you
Yeah,
know what is MySQL, how to work with MySQL, happily you can go ahead and use, no issue. If you know,
got it.
MongoDB, you can use MongoDB.
Got it.
Because what database you are using, what technology stack you are using in product service, that is not our about, that is not the job of order service. Order service is
Yes.
not going to consume the database. Order
Yes.
service is going to consume the APIs, or
API.
you can consider the message broker, right? How you are going to
Yes.
consume,
Got
that
it.
is what important. What
Got it.
technology you use, what database you use, that doesn't matter.
Got it.
Yes. Next question,
Yeah.
please.
Hello.
Yes,
Here, let's say in order service, once order is created, we have to fetch some data from the products, right? Because in order, what are the products we have to fetch from product service. So when we are doing this, getting the data from the product service, doesn't it create the dependency on the product service itself for the
in this
getting
case,
the
see, in this case, to get the data from the product service, what you are consuming? You are consuming the APIs.
Hmm.
As long as the API signature is same, so it is not a dependency. So in this
Okay.
case, what you are consuming? So for example, you develop some services. Those
Hmm.
services are going to be consumed by client. Client means what? The client is using your services, and that is the job of developing a service. That is not a
Okay.
dependency. They have to consume. So in the same way here, it is not depending on the business logic or data access logic or database. It is consuming the service only. So you have to create some service, means you have to expose some endpoint. That endpoint going to take some input and going to return some output. And that is what the use of this order service only.
Okay, but the microservices concept generally isn't it like that? Is each and individual service is on its own. Once the one service is down, let's say product service is down, then other service can work by itself. Means they are not
That is
dependent
what,
on each other.
that is what I'm saying. Na? Suppose the product service is down,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
So can the user log in? Is there any issue with the login service?
No issue with login. But in the
For,
order
for
service, when we have to fetch the data at that time.
see, let me give you. So order service is, suppose you are fetching the order, that product information will not be available. Apart from the product information, other related informations are available or not?
Yes, they are available.
That is what. See, if, for example, if the payment service is down and I'm making one order, then payment is going to be in pending state. What other things are going to be work as expected, na?
Okay.
Right? But yes,
Right.
for example, if a user service is down, then the user cannot log in. In that case, we cannot do anything else.
Okay.
Right? So,
Understood.
so dependency is there, but not in that way that the complete application is going to be down. So in this case, some of the part is going to be down and other things are going to be work as expected. Clear?
Okay. Clear.
Yes, next question, please.
Pranay, here cart service is a part of the product service or there will be a separate layer?
So you can see card service you can define in the product service itself where you can add the product information.
Okay.
Right? Yeah. Or you can write even if you want, you can also develop that card service as part of the order service. That is also possible. But mostly it is should be part of your product service. Clear, guys?
Yes.
Anyone else having any question? And guys, if anyone wants to confirm, right, please take a screenshot of this one and do the payment and confirm your seat. Only 30 seats are possible. Even right, I can see 570 members are already made the payment. So please, right, if you want to confirm your seat, do it as soon as possible. Tomorrow, same time. And tomorrow we are going to discuss what is the design principle, microservices core design principle, and how to develop application by following the clean architecture. That is what the main objective for tomorrow demo sessions. Anyone else having any questions? Otherwise, we can stop the session. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.